I want to convey my heartfelt gratitude to Dr. G. Srinitya Ma'am, Superintendent of OT and Head of Occupation Therapy Unit, NIMHANS Government of India, for accepting the invitation and presenting over this seminar on topic and overview of visual perceptual skills in pediatric occupation therapy. I am sure that you all will be enriched with knowledge at the end of this presentation. I welcome you all to the webinar and hope you all have a great time. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to all the participants, to give all the professionals their delightful experience to impact wisdom to our future occupational therapists. I thank all team OT in-charges for the continuous support all this time and also for the future products. I take this opportunity to introduce our esteemed speaker, Dr. Srinitya Ma'am, who has around 18 years of experience in handling children and adults with various disabilities. Ma'am has done her bachelor degree in KMCH College of Occupational Therapy, and Ma'am has done his master degree in JKK College of Occupational Therapy in Pediatric Specialization. Ma'am has presented papers and honors from various institutions as faculties. Ma'am was presented as a competitive paper on effectiveness of vision therapy as an adjacent to occupation therapy in improving visual motor skills in learning disability children in NCON of Annual Conference Mumbai 2019. And Ma'am was awarded as the best paper presenter on the
Continue. Lavanya. Unmute பண்ணுங்க. Lavanya.
Can you hear me?
இப்போ பேசுங்க. Continue பண்ணுங்க.
Ma'am was invited as a faculty in NIMHANS for the topic of hand robotics in occupation therapy for stroke in 2016. Ma'am is a passionate occupation therapist and well versed in a broad range of programming, treatments, and modalities for restoring functional and mitigating disability. Ma'am also a collaborative team player with superior worker ethics and interpersonal abilities. Ma'am is currently working as an occupation therapist in NIMHANS for the past 18 years, and she is the current designation of Superintendent of Occupation Therapies and Head of Occupation Therapy Unit in NIMHANS. I request Dr. G. Sandhya Ma'am to take over the session. Before starting the sessions, I request all of you to mute your mic and maintain silence and professional decorum. Later on during sessions, we will give you time to come up with the questions. Now we handle over the sessions to your ma'am.
Thank you, Lavanya. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, occupational therapy experts and team OT, especially Savita College of Occupational Therapy. It is a real prodigious honor for me to be a part of this seminar concert. As the saying goes, service to mankind is service to God. What we practice and demonstrate in the medical profession, we all therapists need a real pat on the back for all of our professionals in occupational therapy. We do whatever we do, and especially in this pandemic, you people are conducting these kind of classes for the students. Can everybody just unmute your mic for a second, if you don't mind? I want all of you to give a loud clap for each of you before we start go into the agenda, because I know how much people are giving their efforts to this. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, let's unmute. Yeah. Today, next 1 hour, 30 minutes, I think I will finish. I will make a point to have the session more interactive, one focusing on the subject, and encourage people wherever you need to stop me and ask questions. I welcome you. Thank you. Let's start with the session now. Today's topic is an overview of visual perception skill in pediatric occupational therapy. So let's go into the definition. Visual perception is the ability to see and interpret the visual information that surrounds us. It is the brain's ability to make sense of what we see. So it is not just a passive reception of the visual data, but it signifies the term visual reception, a process. It is a processing of the visual data that we receive. That is why the term interpret is very important in this meaning. That is, the process of taking in one's environment is referred to as perception. If the perception is inaccurate or incorrect or altered in any way, problems with reading, spelling, handwriting, maths, comprehension occurs. Now, for example, to make it very simple about what is visual perception, see, suppose if you tell me the number 8, I know number 8 is between 7 and 9, which is a number 8. When we ask a child having a visual perceptual problem, the child will have 2 circles, one circle and a small circle on top of it. So this is the way the child might perceive number 8. To make it more clear for you, another example is that consider X a person, okay, James. Now he is gone to a zoo. He stands at the feet of around 15 to 20 feet and he sees there's so many insects from far away. As he goes near the insects, he finds that it is not the insect. The object becomes larger and larger and larger, and that is the elephant. That is the way James' perception was. He thinks everything small is an insect. So that is the perception. There is what the problem rise. Everything small is not an insect. So the closer he goes, then he understands that it is an animal, it is an elephant. Now, before going to the actual topic of visual perception, let us know a brief anatomy and physiology of the eye. Now, the light enters the retina. The light enters the eye transmits the light to the retina. So here what happens, the retina focuses the image of the environment. The eyes is shaped in such a way that the refractive rays, sensitive part of the retina receives the rays at the convergent point. So after this is the cornea. Cornea is the outer layer of the eyeball and it's the front of the eye. And the function of this cornea is it plays a significant part in focusing and bending of the light rays that enters the eye. Behind the cornea is the aqueous humor. There's a clear fluid. So this fluid, the pressure of this fluid helps both to maintain the shape of the cornea and to focus the light. The colored part of the eye is called the iris. With the center hole, in the center there's a hole. And along with this is the pupil. Now, what is the function of the iris is that the iris controls the light entering the eye by increasing and decreasing the size of the pupil. So now the light, what it does is it progresses to the crystalline lens. So there, the fine focusing of near vision or far vision happens through a process called vitreous body or vitreous humor. Okay, now with this, we should know the layers of the eyes, which is sclera, choroid, and retinal layer. Now, the sclera, what it does is that it is a fibrous and elastic tissue and it maintains the eyes in structure, in place. Choroid, it nourishes the eye. Retinal layer has 3 layers, that is rods, cones, and the pupillary cells. Now, the cone is the color perception and visual acuity. It is responsible for these 2 things. Rod is night and peripheral vision. Pupillary cells is responsible for dilation and constriction of the pupil. Next is the fovea centralis. It is in the retina and it gives the sharpest and clearest vision. Now, what happens? The light stimulates the visual receptor cells in the retina causing some electrochemical changes to happen. And the impulses, it passes to the optic nerve, and from there it transmits visual sensory message to the brain. This happens in a very special way. That is, the nasal fibers, half of the fibers divide, and half the fibers goes to the contralateral side, and other half do not divide, but it goes to the ipsilateral side. Now, there are some impulses which go for upward and some impulses go downward. Okay, the impulses which go upward, what happens? It goes to the optic nerve, that is to the post. You can show, yeah, here it goes to the parietal lobe. Here the visual spatial processing occurs. It focuses on the location of the objects. This pathway is referred to as dorsal stream. So dorsal stream, here what happens? There's something called magnocellular channel which is dominant. So here what happens? The motion, depth detection, stereoscopic vision, interpretation of spatial organization happens. And here the question is, where is it? The impulse which flow downward, the inferior temporal lobe, it goes to the inferior temporal lobe. Here the parvocellular, can you see the pink part? That is the parvocellular channel, which is very much dominant here. Because of this, the pathway is called the ventral stream, and it asks the question, what is it? Like pattern recognition, color perception, form, size perception takes place. Okay, now after the anatomy and physiology, now we will enter to our subject of visual perception. Now, when we talk about visual perception, it is defined as visual perception has got two important components. Am I audible?
Audible, madam.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. Visual perception is defined as a total process responsible for two major components. One is visual reception and visual cognition. So, okay, what is reception? It is the sensory function. It is a process of extracting and organizing information from the environment. Whereas cognition, specific mental function, is responsible the sense that it provides capacity to organize, structure, and interpret the stimuli, giving meaning to what is seen. Now, we are going to discuss only about these two components throughout the session. We are going to talk about visual receptive function, what problem arises, and what treatment we are going to give. And visual cognitive function, the problem arises because of that, and then the treatment intervention. Now, when we talk about visual receptive function, the oculomotor system enables the visual receptive process. Here, there are some the components of this visual receptive function. They are visual fixation, pursuit and saccadic eye movement, acuity, accommodation, binocular fusion, stereopsis, and convergence and divergence. Now, we will go one by one. What is visual fixation is that visual fixation on stationary object is a prerequisite skill for the oculomotor response, and it is like, for example, gaze shifting between objects. Here, what happens? It is activated. Here, the movements are done by the 6 extraocular muscles, and these extraocular muscles are innervated by the 3 cranial nerves, like 3, 4, and 6, which is oculomotor, abducens, and trochlear. And here, the conjugated and coordinated movements takes place. So, because of takes place, and here the fixation happens, and most of the information for this oculomotor nuclei is taken from the superior colliculi. So this is what is visual fixation is. Next is the pursuit and saccadic eye movement. This is nothing but tracking and scanning movements. Next is the acuity. Acuity, we all know, it is 20/20 acuity, and acuity is nothing but it is the whether the child is able to see or not clearly at a distance is acuity. Many of us confuse visual acuity with visual perception, which is not. Visual acuity is whether the child is able to see at a distance, whereas visual perception is what the child perceives, what the brain makes sense of what it sees. So visual acuity, if it is going to be 20/20, still the child might have problem with the visual perception. Next comes the accommodation. It is a process used to obtain clear vision. It focuses object at varying distance. It occurs when internal ocular muscles contract, and the focusing takes place at all distance. Next, the binocular fusion. The binocular fusion is that here ability mentally to combine the images from two ways into a single percept. There are two prerequisites for binocular vision. That is, one is motor fusion and the other one is the sensory fusion. So in binocular fusion, motor fusion is that two eyes are aligned on one object. Okay, then sensory fusion here is size and clarity of two images must be compactable. So this is binocular fusion. Next is the stereopsis. Stereopsis is nothing but the three-dimensional vision. Next is the convergence and divergence. So in convergence and divergence, here what happens? The inward movement of the eye to view a close object, abduction for near, accommodative demand. So the inward movement of the eyes from the medial plane and the outward movement of the eye from the medial plane is what convergence and divergence are. The next, okay. Now we are going to go for the components of visual cognitive function. Like visual receptive components, we have some components in visual cognitive function. They are visual attention, visual memory, visual discrimination, form object perception, spatial perception, and visual imagery. Now, we will go one by one. Visual attention. Okay. Visual attention, selection of visual input is visual attention. The definition is the ability to focus on important visual information and avoid the unimportant background information. Here, it provides appropriate time frame for which the visual information is passed by the eye through, and it goes to the visual cortex where the visual processing occurs. Now, the voluntary eye movement of localization, fixation, ocular pursuit, gaze shift, all these are because of visual attention. Now, when we are talking about visual attention, there are 5 areas of attention, that is focused attention, shifting attention, sustained attention, selective attention, and divided attention. Focused attention is what? When a child attention is focused on a particular thing, literally the child is focused on a particular picture or auditory hearing information, we call it as focused attention. Shifting attention is when your child begins one task, stops to shift the other task in between, that is shifting. Sustained attention, attend and focus on a task for a continuous stretch of time. Selective attention is when the child attends to one specific task while filtering out the other distractions around them. Divided attention is when the child can multitask, focusing only on a part of their attention on multiple items at the same time as multiple attention. Next, we are going to go to the visual memory, the ability to recall visual traits of a form or object. It involves integration of visual information with previous experience is the visual memory. Visual imagery is the ability to picture people, ideas, and objects in the mind eye, even when the object is not physically present. Like, for example, when we give the child a book about a story, or a storybook, the storybook will have some cartoons and the child imagines that and then the remembrance will be better. So that is visual imagery. Next, the visual discrimination, the ability to determine differences or similarities based on size, color, shape, etc. This has got the ability to detect features of stimuli like recognition, matching, categorization takes place in this visual discrimination. Here, the recognition is a key feature of stimulus and they relate them to the memory. Matching is the ability to note the similarities among the visual stimuli. The ability to note the similarities among the visual stimuli is matching, and the categorization is ability to determine a quality or category by which similarities or differences can be noted. So in this, we are going to talk about visual form constancy, visual figure ground. And here it is important to note that distinction exists between object vision and spatial vision. Okay. Now, what is object vision? Is that color, texture, shape, size, what things are. If you could remember what I told earlier in this slide. I'm sorry, in this slide, we talked about ventral stream and dorsal stream. So here, where things are, what is it, is what is happening in the object and spatial vision. Okay. Object vision pathway is the temporal lobe and the spatial vision pathway is the parietal lobe. And here the object perception takes with two types, like abstract visual forms system and specific visual form system. Next comes the form constancy, the ability to know that a form or shape is the same, even if it has been made smaller, larger, or has been turned around. Recognition of forms and objects. For example, suppose we tell the child to find out A in a book, letter A in a book. The child should be able to find the letter A, whether it is in a written format or from a book or from a texture or from any other printed area. Wherever there is A, the child should be able to symbolize it. That is form constancy. Now, when we go to the visual figure ground perception, the ability to locate something in a busy background. For example, you ask the child to go bring a toy from a toy box, or you say, or I can say, you ask the child to bring a particular ball from a ball cabinet. The child should be able to locate it. That is figure ground perception. Next comes the visual closure. So that identification of forms and objects, the incomplete presentation. The child should be able to, you see, there is a butterfly, there is letter A, there is a star. The child should be able to complete this. Or if this there is a pig here, the picture of a pig, the child should be able to complete the picture by giving this page. This is visual closure. The child should be able to recognize the object when the part of the object is missing. The signboard, when the tree is hidden. This is a typical example they have given in the book. So this is what is visual closure. Next comes the visual spatial perception. Now, understanding the relationship of object within the environment is visual spatial relationship. And here we talk about position in space, depth perception, and topographical orientation. Position in space, ability to understand directional languages like in, out, up, down, in front of, behind, between, left and right. This is position in space. Here, for example, the child places the letters equal space apart and touching the lines, like if the letters P, Q, G, those letters should be written, it comes outside the line. So that is the position in space. Next goes to the depth perception. The perceptual ability provides an awareness of how far something is, and it helps people to move in space, like walking down the stairs, catching a ball, pouring water in the glass are the examples. Topographical orientation, the determination of the localization of object and setting the route to the location. Like, for example, the child wants to drink water from the dining hall. The child in the classroom wants to drink water from the dining hall. A child goes to dining hall, drinks the water. The child should be able to come back to the classroom instead of getting lost in between. So this is the example. Okay. You're there? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, next comes the developmental framework. So this is the hierarchy of visual perceptual deficit. So Warren presented developmental framework based on the bottom-up approach. To find where the deficit is located in the visual system, this hierarchy is being followed. Now, it is a framework for assessing vision alone. This is oculomotor control, visual field, visual acuity, attention, alert and attending, scanning, pattern recognition, visual memory, visual cognition, adaptation through vision. So the primary skills forms the foundation of all the visual skills. These are the definitions from the hierarchy. Oculomotor control provides essential eye movement that ensures the path is complete. Here the visual field is for visual scanning, seen, and visual acuity ensures that visual information sent to CNS is accurate. Visual attention is the thoroughness of the scan path depends on visual attention. Scanning is pattern recognition depends on thorough scanning of visual environment. Pattern recognition, the shape, contour, and general features, specific features of an object, details of colors, shading, and textures to be given. Visual memory, as we already saw, mental manipulation of visual information needed for visual cognition, which requires either to retain the information in the memory for immediate recall or to store for later use. Visual cognition, this is the ability to mentally manipulate visual information and integrate with sensory information to solve problem, formulate plans, and make decisions. This is the definitions that is there in the hierarchy. Okay. Now let us see the developmental sequence, visual receptive function when it takes place, and visual cognitive function when it takes place. Visual receptive function, visual receptive process begins from the womb. At birth, the infant has rudimentary visual fixation ability and brief reflexive tracking, like the gestation week 24. Gross anatomic structure and visual pathway is complete. Gestation week 24 to 40, the retina and the visual cortex undergoes maturation, differentiation, and remodeling. Second month, accommodation, convergence, and the other oculomotor subsystems are established. Fifth month, eye movements are produced by the vestibular influences. And fifth year, maximum accommodation, child should be able to sustain the skill effort at a fixed distance. Okay. Cognitive function, the figure-ground perception between 3 to 5 years of age, form constancy 6 to 7 years of age, position in space is between 7 to 9 years of age, and spatial relationship at 10 years of age. And because we are going to intervene with the handwriting skills, we are going to we should know the visual motor development also. 12 to 16 months, the child scribbles on the paper. 16 to 20 months imitates vertical and horizontal scribbles. 20 to 24 months imitates circular scribbling as well as single horizontal, vertical horizontal lines. 2 to 3 years imitates single circle. It can copy vertical and horizontal lines. 3 to 4 years imitates cross, square, and diagonal lines. 4 to 5 years copies cross, square, oblique lines, imitates the copies cross, imitates some letters, begin imitating and copying the name. 5 to 6 years copies a triangle and most letters and writes names and letters from the memory. Now, let us go to the visual perceptual problems. Now, when we are going to talk about the visual perceptual problems, 50% of the students work near point as reading and writing. 20% of them have a distance to near and near to distance copying from the problem. They have a problem in copying from the blackboard. 70% they have stress on the visual system. Now, when we are talking about problems in visual receptive function, students with visual dysfunction have problems on behavioral demands of sitting still, sustaining attention, and completing their work. So, learning related visual, learning related vision problems are like visual efficiency and visual information processing. These are draw deficit visual system components. In addition to vision problems, child also exhibits here difficulty in completing the school task or avoiding reading, visual fatigue, difficulty to perform near-centered visual tasks. They have a lot of distractions. So because of which loss of practice and learning happens. Now, 20% of the learning disabled children have visual information processing problem. 15 to 20% have visual efficiency problem. 60 to 80% of the children have accommodation disorders. Convergence efficiency is also most common in these children. And there is something called refractive errors in these children. The child with nearsightedness has blurred distant vision, but has clarity near point. So now, as a therapist, we should be able to assess these children, and how we are going to do that, we are going to see in the following slides. And the child who is far-sighted has clear and distant vision, but the child who exerts extra effort to maintain clear vision at near point, they have a lot of issues to be taken over. There's something called astigmatism. Astigmatism is the child experiences blurred vision at distant and near with loss of clarity depending on the severity. Next is the accommodation problem, which I think you're familiar with the word presbyopia. When the accommodation for near object is poor, this means like the far-sightedness happens. Then strabismus. If one eye overly turns in and out or down because of muscular imbalance, then it is strabismus, and also referred to as crossed eye or wandering eye. It continuously keeps wandering. And phoria. Phoria is eye turns slightly in, out, up or down, but overt malalignment is absent, as in strabismus. These comes under the category of binocular vision problems, dysfunctions. Here we have to 1 minute. Yeah. Now we will see the visual cognitive functions. What are the problems in visual cognitive areas? Now, first is the attention. Attention, to review, the attention is composed of, as we already saw, selective attention, vigilance, shared attention, focused attention. So many things we saw in the previous slides. So when we talk about attention here, if the child state of alertness or arousal is impaired, child may demonstrate overactive attentiveness, underattentiveness, or poor sustained attention. Children are easily distracted and they experience fatigue very early, very easily. So child stops and refrains from the work or the activity, we can say. If the selective attention problem is there for the children, they have reduced ability to focus on the visual target. Whatever the activity is given to them, they get easily confused and they might not do it. Selective attention problem also leads to difficulty in encoding information into memory. And a child with reduced vigilance skills, they have problem in concentrating on the visual task. Shared attention, if the child's state of alertness or arousal is impaired, the child may demonstrate behaviors of overattentiveness, as I said, and poor sustained attention. And they will have continuously visual searching behavior because of the visual memory and poor ability to recognize or retrieve visual information and store visual information in the short or long-term memory. And child may have good memory for life experience, but the child may have good experience, the life experience, but the factual material, there will be a problem. And they cannot recall sequence of letters, symbols. They may be distracted. They demonstrate high level activity level, and they get easily confused. Now, the problems in visual discrimination, object form vision, the child may exhibit impaired ability to recognize, match, and categorize, as we already saw when we spoke about visual discrimination. Object form vision, a child has difficulty recognizing forms and objects when they are presented in different sizes or different orientation in space. Again, here also we have difficulty in recognizing letters or words in different styles of prints, difficulty in visual closure. Difficulty occurs when the child cannot identify the form or object. So the child had difficulty in reading the letter when partly occluded. Next is the figure ground perception. Difficulty in sorting and organizing personal belongings. Child has tendency to overlook details and miss important information. Here, the child may not be able to pick specific toy from the shelf if you ask them to pick up. Picking words are difficult. And if you ask them to have a good search strategy, that will be a problem. Visual search strategy is going to be a problem for this kind of children. Then the spatial vision. Children have difficulty planning their action in relation to the objects around them, and they may show delayed gross motor skills. They show letter reversals in writing, confusion in letters, words, and marks, especially when we like words like saw, was, they have confusion. Writing or spacing may be the problem, and they may have difficulty understanding the sequence of letters. Directional languages like in, out, on, under, next, to, up, down. Decreased depth perception can affect the child's ability to walk through space and to catch a ball. Difficulty with steps and curbs. Difficulty copying from a blackboard. Confusion in right and left. Diminished topographical orientation, and the child may be unable to walk from home to school without getting lost. At the same time here, the child has difficulty in location of objects, finding the way home back from the school, and they are unable to walk from home to school without the assistance of anybody. Then we are going to go for the diagnosis. Diagnosis with problems in visual perception. When we are going to go to the diagnosis, when we go before going to this, see, in diagnosis, initially there will be problem in reading. So the word graphic configuration, orthographic ordering of the letters, orthography, which is the ordering of letters, phonology, sound representation, semantic, the meaning of the letters, confusion of letters like P, Q, G, A, O will be a problem. A problem with spelling also will be there. Now, okay, the child with developmental problems, the problems like refractive error, impaired visual attention can have a pervasive negative influence. Difficulty sustaining eye contact or recognizing objects visually. And preterm infants, if it's a preterm infant, ROP, retinopathy of prematurity, can cause blindness. Corticovisual impairment associated with CNS damage might be there, periventricular leukemia. Thick lens, poor visual acuity, astigmatism, extreme myopia, strabismus, amblyopia, anisometrophia, which is unequal diffraction of the eye, difficulty in visual processing occurs. And the child with cerebral palsy, degree of perceptual impairment in individual with CP was related to this type of motor impairment. Quadriplegic CP, they have problem with strabismus. Oculomotor problems are there. Convergence inefficiencies, nystagmus are there. There are a lot of studies which is spoken about the convergence insufficient problem in the CP. Poor visual gaze. Children with the right hemiplegia show a visual perception problem, but not the children with the left hemiplegia. Children with language delay have problems in visual perception. Like, for example, for the language delay problems, the child can differentiate between a Pomeranian dog and a pug dog. But when you ask about what are they two, they cannot say that they are dogs. They can say the breeds, but they cannot say that they both are dogs. And for the autism, poor oculomotor functioning and poor focusing problem are there. And for coordination disorder children, there will be problem in reading, spelling, handwriting, and visual motor integration. In mathematics, these kind of problems happens. In handwriting, if you see, there will be problem in difficulty recalling the shape, formation of letters and numbers, mixing small and the capital letters in sentence, writing sentence, same letter again and again, unable to print the alphabet, poor legibility. These kind of problems are seen in same way, difficulty in copying, unable to print the alphabet from the memory. There will be letter reversals like M, W, D, B, D, S, C, Z, those kind of problems. And numbers like 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, and 9 will be a problem. Overspacing would be there, underspacing between the words and letters, trouble writing the margin. So next we are going to go to the evaluation methods in the visual receptive evaluation methods. So as I told you, we have two components, right? Visual receptive evaluation and visual cognitive function. So how are we going to do the evaluation when it is coming to concern with visual receptive reception, and how are we going to do with the cognition, visual cognition? So for visual receptive, the occupational therapist may observe oculomotor dysfunction in the child to a screening test. So we are supposed to see these things like does the child eyes work together, how well the eyes is working, where is the visual control and most efficient effective, does the child move his head excessively while reading, does the child skip lines while reading, even if the child has glaucoma, cataracts, we have to see these things, visual history from the family. Okay, now sometimes so we have to ask the parents to go do their visual acuity test with the doctors, ophthalmologists, to find out. Evaluation should begin by focusing on visual receptive process, which includes visual field, visual acuity, oculomotor. Warren, who's done this visual perception studies, he suggested what appears to be visual receptive problem may not be visual, may be visual cognitive problem. We think it's a visual receptive problem, but it can be a visual cognitive problem. So observe if the child is missing or misreading the beginning or end of the words or numbers. It shows central field defect if anything is there. Ask the parents to do refractive status of the child. Clinical measurements of the eye can be done. Check whether the child is nearsighted, myopic, or far-sighted, hyperopic. We have to find out. Astigmatism is there or not. We have to check out. Snellen's test can be done, as we all know. That's for visual acuity. We have nothing to do with that, but then we have to know about if there is any problem with this, which measures the acuity and detects only 5% of visual problem. Some schools use telebinoculars, which provides information about the near or far vision. Next is the okay. Otis may also have to observe oculomotor dysfunction in the child, as I told you in the previous slide. To check for these eyes work together, eye teaming, and all that. And then let us go to the visual cognitive function evaluation. Here we are going to do the standardized assessments like Bruin-Keys Osseretskii test of motor proficiency, BOT2, test of visual analysis skills, visual spatial test, visual perceptual test, and VMI, visual motor integration. Okay. Now, when we are going to go to the standardized test, Bruin-Keys Osseretskii test of motor proficiency, BOT2. We do this for the age group of children between 4 to 21, and it measures the motor skills. It has got 8 subcomponents like fine motor precision, fine motor integration, manual dexterity, bilateral coordination, balance, then running speed, agility, upper limb coordination, and strength. So this is Bruin-Keys Osseretskii BOT2s, and the test of visual analysis, criterion reference test for children. This is done between the age group of 5 to 8 years, and child is asked to copy simple to complex geometric patterns, and this test is to find if the child is competent or in need of any remediation for perception. Next is the visual spatial test. Jordan left to right reversal test is this, and here the age group is 5 to 12 years, and they detect visual reversal of letters, numbers, and words. Visual perceptual test, we have TVPS, test of visual perceptual skills, developmental test of visual perception, TTVP, comprehension assessment of visual perception, motor free visual perception test, and test of pictures, forms, letters, numbers, spatial orientation, and sequencing test. I will talk about TVPS a bit. TVPS, the age group is 4 to 18 years, and we have few subtests like visual discrimination, visual memory, visual spatial relationship, form constancy, visual sequential memory, visual figure ground, and visual closure. And then we have developmental test of visual perception DTVP. The age group for this is between 4 to 10 years. Here also we have 8 subtests like hand-eye coordination, copying, spatial relationship, position in space, figure ground competence, visual closure, visual motor speed, form constancy. And the motor free visual perception test will go for test of picture forms. And again, it is a norm referenced 5 to 9 years. And it has 7 subtests to perceive like forms, letters, numbers in correct direction, and to perceive words and letters in sequence. Next comes the visual motor integration. Visual motor integration is for the age group of 2 to 19 years. Now, this has got 3 subtests, and test is how the child is processing, organizing, and using visual cognitive function. The visual skill foundation here is more important, and motor skill foundation is very important. So when we talk about visual skill foundation, the visual perceptual skill, functional visual skill, and eye-hand coordination is important in VMI. And motor skill foundation, when we talk about, it shows the shoulder girdle stability, fine motor, and eye-hand coordination. Now, okay. Now let us go to the theoretical approaches which we'll be using for this visual perception problems and treatment. When we talk about the approaches, I have taken 3 approaches: developmental approach, neurophysiologic approach, and compensatory approach. The developmental approach, the Warren, he had a concept that higher level skills evolved from the integration of the lower level skills. So the autists who follow this model of developmental approach have to evaluate the lower level skills before proceeding to the higher level skills to determine where the deficit is in the visual hierarchy or the motor control, visual field, acuity. These are the foundation skills, and visual attention, these forms the higher skills. Then comes the neurophysiologic approach. Neurophysiologic approach here emphasizes the importance of postural stability for oculomotor efficiency, and it focuses on the enhancing child's occupational performance. And learning theories also here emphasize the child's development of visual analysis skills. Now, next, the compensatory approach. Compensatory approach is like adaptation and compensation of techniques, which include reducing the classroom visual distraction, providing visual stimuli to direct attention, limiting amount of new materials in any single class. You're teaching the child a new thing. Immediately after an hour or so or 2 hours, you start teaching another concept to the child, which is going to distract the child, and also the child is not going to follow whatever you're going to teach the child. Not only this is for this child who has visual perception, even for the normal child, we cannot immediately teach many new concepts at the same time. Present new information in a simple, organized way is very important. A simple way of teaching is important. Link new information with the previous experience of what already the child knows. That is important. Use all senses is what the compensatory approach says, and then it provides repeated experience to establish information and practice. Whatever is being taught to the child has to be practiced continuously. Children with similar learning style is very important. Go according to their. I'm going to talk about it in the intervention anyways. Next is the Now we are going to talk about the intervention part of the visual perception. Okay. When going to the intervention, I would like to talk a few things what Warren in visual perception has told for the NICU infants. He presented a protocol for working with preterm infants in NICU, neonatal ICU. He suggested a few techniques like dim lights allow the newborn to spontaneously open the eyes. So he suggested the lights to be dim in the room of that ICU, and stimulation of the body senses is very important. Like tactile vestibular stimulation can influence the development of distant sense, visual sense, which matures later. Glass also suggested ways to use human face as one of the important source of visual stimulation for the infant. He also recommended beginning with softer, simpler forms, three-dimensional objects, and varying stimuli based on whether the intention is to soothe the child or to arouse the child. Then the other techniques, like he also suggested to use a mobile hung over the cribs, which should be placed 2 feet away above the infant and slightly to one side, so that it allows the selective attention for the infants. He recommended black and white patterns be reserved for full-term infants who are visually impaired and unable to attend to the image. Okay, from high contrast, he said from high contrast, it's better to shift to the less contrast patterns, which should be made for the infants to make it easier for them to visualize. Studies also showed that 3 to 5 months infants may get attracted to toys and reflect light or flashlights converting with the sound. The presentation of stimuli is important for the formation of memory representation. So how we're going to present the stimuli is more important in the memory representations. Now, going to the preschool and kindergarten activities as far as the visual perception problems are concerned, the teachers have to be given a lot of instructions, and we need to sit and work with the teachers before we are going to work with the child. The teacher should understand the increased need for multisensory approach. The young children who are struggling with shape, letters, and numbers. Child can use tactile input to learn the shapes, letters, and numbers. By using the letters with textures, the child has additional sensory experience on which he or she can rely with visual skills, which is diminished. For example, we can say texture like the play dough, atta, or different cereal textures. The child we can make the alphabet in those kind of textures, or even the cake pudding you can make. You tell the child to eat the cake with the alphabet. Those things stimulates the child to learn better, and the teachers can encourage these kind of stuffs during the snack time. And then vision, when you visual haptic and haptic exploration of letters and reading training program, it facilitates the 5-year child to understand the alphabet. All preschool and primary class children should include activities that develop which encourages, which makes body in space concept to improve the visual perception. So to improve the body in space concept, they can go for something like shadow dance, or Simon Says game, or statue games. This can reinforce the body in space comprehension. Now, school, these kind of activities can be encouraged. Now, before that, how are we going to organize the environment where the child is going to learn? Which is more important. Organizing the environment, the visual perception affects the child's view of entire learning environment. Visually distracting and competing information can be problematic for the child who has not yet fully developed his or her skills. The child may require classrooms which is less noisy or less busy visually to allow him or her to focus learning. Child also needs a stable postural base that allows his or her eyes to work together, which is very important. And the children often ill-fitting furnitures which they sit, which can compound to their problems. Position is very important to maintain for any children to do the activity, not only for the visual perception problem children, but even for us, positioning is very important for us to do an activity, and that only makes us comfortable. Now, the therapist can, what the therapist can do here is, the therapist can add bolster to the back, put the blocks under the feet, or provide the child with a slant board if any of these materials will help the child to be use the vision effectively. And when talking about the positions, there are few positions which can be encouraged for this visual perception activity specifically, like alternative position in prone, television position, sideline for visual perceptual activities such as reading. These are few alternate positions of visual perceptual activities. And the children with color vision problems, they have difficulty with the education materials that are color coded. So particularly when the color deficit is there, so we have to solve that issue too, right? So how do we do that? Is that by either with the color naming or color identification is the best way of solving this issue of color coding problem for the color visually challenged children. Then visual attention, how are we going to improve the visual attention for these kids? Is that with sensory processing approach, general sensory stimulation or inhibition may be provided. If the child is over aroused, the therapist can diminish sensory input to calm her. Or if the child is under aroused, the therapist selects alerting activities to increase the level of arousal. The therapist addresses goals using varied activities, and the time segments that are achievable can be used. Most challenging to the therapist is adapting or modifying activities by maintaining a playful environment. In the playful environment itself, it's better to modify and use that time as a activity time. Next is the manual activities, where drawing or manipulating the clay. It also encourages the view of movements involved. Whatever movements the child is able to do, we can have an idea about that. Activities to compensate for limitations attentions include like placing a, for example, I can say, you want the child to do an activity. The best way to do is you put a black chart or a black sheet, and then give the activity to the child with the paper, so that the child is not distracted with few other things. So that will help the child to give full attention. That is placing a black mat larger than the worksheet underneath to increase the high contrast. That is one way of getting the attention. Drawing lines to group the materials. Reorganizing the worksheet is one. And then the child can also wear the headphones to work on the visual task. Good lighting, using pastel color paper is very important. Encourage the children to search for high interest photographic picture. These also can be encouraged. Other intervention strategies, like visual intervention strategies for increasing attention, is that attending to whole sustained before attending to the parts. Attending to whole situation, the full situation, in spite of dividing it in between, it will be better. Taking timeouts from a task, monitoring the tendency to become distracted, searching the whole scene before responding, teaching self-instruction skills, devising time and pressure management strategies. These are the ways that we can improve this visual attention. Now, the occupational therapist can also, the occupational therapist can help the child determine differences in visual stimuli to promote storage and memory. For that, they can use games like concentration games, copying a sequence after viewing it for a few seconds. Telling what was removed from the tray. That is like you remove a particular object from the tray and ask the child what has been removed. Then 2 objects, and then ask how many objects have been removed. Those kind of activities will improve. Then therapists have to provide short, simple tasks that the child completes quickly, and then increases the complexity. We have to grade the task in such a way that initial success encourages a child to do more of the activities. Visual discrimination, when we see, for that what the activities like therapists can use task analysis to design intervention program. It should follow orderly design so child makes sense of each performance. Teaching children to scan or search pictures, the word search game, or little complex Sudoku kind of a game according to the age. Let them search the words from top to bottom, to left to right, and you can also cut the picture from a magazine. Just take one part of it, ask the child to find out what is missing is important. So this is one way of doing it. Next is that make the child move from awareness to attention and then to selection. This is very important. The child should be able to discriminate between what is important and what is not very important in the environment. When the child has problem in copying from the blackboard, usually there will be a complaint from the parents when they come to the session. They will say the child is not able to copy from the blackboard, and so the child is not writing. This is the teacher's report would be so. So we can request the teacher or recommend the teacher that the chalkboard be cleaned regularly to reduce the clutters. If you also remember, when we were also in the school, the top of the each class, they will rub, they will write. They will rub, they will write. It will be so glaring for a normal child also that it's difficult to see what is being written. So avoid doing that kind of a thing and regularly clean without any clutters, and provide high contrast for the chalk markers. Teachers may be encouraged to use beanbag game, in which targets are placed at the same distance. So this beanbag game, what it does, this will also help to copy the contents from the blackboard. This kind of game, the same distance, when we do fixation and focusing, will improve. So this beanbag game can be given to the child, and they can reduce the amount of print on a page when doing the work activity. Providing max, instead of giving generally a max problem in a normal paper, what we can do is you can give a graph paper where there are a lot of columns. So each column will have a number, and it would be better for the child to initially work on max sums. And then when the child has got decoding problems in reading. So what is decoding problem? Children who have difficulty distinguishing between the similar visual symbols and benefit from a these kind of children benefit from a multisensory approach. We can say tracing the shapes and letters, hearing them. Okay, decoding. They have to trace the shapes, the letters, hear them, say them, then feel them, which helps to supplement visual perceptual processing. Seeing, hearing, tracing, and then write. If you see here in the slide, first the child looks at the picture with clues, then sounds it out, tells it out. Okay, then chunk it, look for smaller words hiding inside, chunk it, flip the sound, go back and reread it, skip it and come back. Does it make sense of what they have read, and does it sound right? This is the way that the child has to decode. And in this, eating letters is an activity with the children love. If you give, as I already told you, for the textures also, see, when you give the snack time, you use the alphabet from the cereals or gelatin jigglers or cookies. You can use it as snack time as well as a fun time for the child to learn the alphabets. For children with word recognition problem, there will be difficulty initially for the recognition of the words. So the retrieval has to happen. So word difficulty, initially it should be a recognition rather than retrieval. So we have to go for recognition than retrieving. And in addition, using word families like ball, tall, or call, there is a problem. So here, to increase sight vocabulary and enhances word recognition skills. Phonic approaches may also be the best reading instruction method for children with poor word recognition. So that can be also used. Next, okay, before going this, if the child has strong verbal skills, verbal mediation should be stressed, and the child could be encouraged to describe what she or he sees to retain the information. And several studies support the use of colored filters to improve reading skills also. There will be color overlays have been used for children with difficulty reading due to visual fatigue and with visual distortion that are reported as movement of the print, merging of the print background and patterns with the print background. Next is visualization. Visualization is one way of again teaching the child how to learn better. Like all skills, let's proceed from the concrete to the abstract. Therapists can start by helping students picture something. Helping students picture something that they can touch or feel. So when you do hands-on, it is better for the children to learn and they grab it. A student might be asked to visualize something that he or she has done. We occupational therapists facilitate the child's thinking by reminding them the color, shape, and those kind of things, what they visualized. For example, the story. So what happened in the story, by visualizing the story or giving the prop to them, that will help them to visualize and remember what they have studied. Next is the learning style. So learning style is that, learning style model. Here, each child, not only child, you or me, we have a different learning style of taking the content. Now, all students have preferred learning styles in the way that when the student is taught according to his style, they will have less effort and they will remember better. There are a lot of type of learners. Some are auditory learners, some are visual learners, some are tactile kinesthetic learners. If they're auditory learners, they recall at least 75% of what is discussed or heard in the normal 40 to 45 minutes period. If they are visual learners, they remember what they see. If you're tactile and kinesthetic learner, they assimilate best by touching, manipulating, or handling objects, which we say hands-on. Now, all students must be, they need to be taught through their strongest sense and then reinforced to their next strong sense, one by one. For example, if it is a tactile kinesthetic learner, we are telling a story for the child so that the child learns the story. We can use the crop of that story, whatever they have used, talking about the king. You give a sword to the child and explain the story to the child. That would be better learnt. And here, when you see this, each child has a different learning. See, some people, this also predicts the same way, that some people learn some wants to do group study. Some wants to study alone. Some just by putting the, I have seen a lot of my own classmates or people who put their headphones, they listen to the music and they study. That is their style of learning. Some people want to be very silent. There should be no noise from the surrounding, and then they learn. So according to whatever learning styles they prefer, their child prefers, it is our duty to find out that and then give them the learning style accordingly. Next is the visual motor integration about the handwriting. See, the therapist should be aware of which handwriting approach is used in the classroom. What kind of handwriting is necessary for the child in the classroom where the child is. Auditory learners, they use talking pen. Handwriting programmers like Loops and other groups are there. Handwriting without tears is being taught. These are easier for children with visual cognitive problems. Children with spatial problem often choose random starting point, which can confuse the writing task from the onset. Concrete cues must be used to teach abstract handwriting concepts. Some children have problem with starting so colored lines or raised lines to start the sentence can be encouraged. And if there is a problem with start, you give a green color code so that they start, and red color code so that they stop. Directional cues also are very important, which can be paired with the verbal cues for child who commonly reverse the letters and numbers. And there is a different type of teaching also. I have seen the palm facing the chest and thumbs up. Some children have problem with B and D confusion. So when we teach, we use this the left hand is B and the right hand is D. This kind of fisting activity, along with that, we can even sing a song with the child with the alphabets. Teach them that the how to put B. They have to know a line and a loop forms the B, a single semicircle forms the C. So these kind of handwriting techniques can be taught to the child. Then apart from this, for the child who often overspace or underspace the words, the occupational therapist may recommend using a decorated tongue depressor or a pencil to space words. And many times, if you are a mother, you tell your child to keep the finger between each word to space equally between the but those kind of things can be taught to the child, or to make the child get interested, we can use any other small pencil toy also to space the words in between. When the students need additional help to stop at lines, templates with windows can also be used for teaching handwriting. Yeah, that's it. So I'm ending the session here. These are my references which I have used for this class. Yeah. Is anybody there?
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am. Anybody willing to answer questions?
Thank you.
Anyone? I think
What is the time? 4 o'clock. Waiting for the questions.
ma'am,
Yes, Lavanya.
one more question is there. How to help the 7th grade child who makes lot of error in spelling?
7th
Spelling
grade.
in words is an issue.
How to?
One second, ma'am. How to help the 7th grade child who makes lot of errors in spellings and spacing in words is an issue.
Okay, we have to find what is the cause of the child having spelling problem, first of all. So, okay, now we have to find out what is the problem. The child is making lot of spelling mistakes. It might be because the child's attention is poor, concentration is poor. That is why the child is having a spelling problem, or is the vision problem is there for the child. We have to find out that if there is a vision problem, then we have to rectify the vision problem. The glasses is to be worn or not for the child. First, we have to rectify those issues. As we said about the visual receptive components, we have to clarify those issues. And then again, if there is a problem with the spelling, the color coding techniques can be used. Like I told you, the colors, starting letters, colors, those kind of spacing. We have to use color coding in between the words, and then we have to teach them the spacing also.
Anyone interested to answer questions?
Hello, ma'am. Good evening. My name is Richu.
Ah.
I just want to ask you one thing, that whether we have to go with the traditional way of training, or any other media use of media is available in this visual perception training. That, what do you think? Which one will be better?
See, there are a lot of computer games also, which is now introduced, which can be used for this kind of training. Always going for advanced treatment is good, but no child is the same. Each child is different. So we should know the child's specificity, and we should also know whether the child can be put in the media kind of a technique to teach this perceptual skills. But yes, there are a lot of advanced techniques which we can use computers. A lot of games is come the computers available in the recent trends to use this visual perceptual training program. But it depends upon the child.
All right, ma'am. Thank you.
I think the questions are over now.
Okay.
Can you give me the word?
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I should give.
No, I will tell you the word of thanks.
Okay.
On behalf of my OT team, I convey my regards and heartfelt thanks to our esteemed speaker, Dr. G. Srinidhya ma'am, who spared time for us and shared her knowledge with us. I'm extremely grateful for having Dr. Srinidhya ma'am as our speaker today for her humbleness and genuinity. We would like to extend my thanks to all the participants for being with us. Thank you, one and all. Thank you, the technical team and the students, for the continuous support. Thank you so much once again to all the participants in